When we went to Chicago, the police were doing everything short of coming up and giving you flowers and
Yes.
kissing you on the lips, you know. Cleveland has just been delightful. So again, what a great choice for Cleveland. But let's talk a little bit about, I was teasing the governor. We've been at the epicenter of so many things in Utah, including a little, it was described in the Deseret News as chaos on the floor or rebellion. That was Lisa Riley Roche's article. So what happened on the floor yesterday, and was there anything to it, or do we have a bunch of sour grapes?
It's sour grapes, but let me walk you through it because it gets a little bit into the technical rules, all right? Under the rules of the Republican Party, the rules that were in place before we adopted them on the floor, so whichever rule set you want to look at,
right.
Under the rules of the Republican Party, and it's printed in the program, I believe it's the second page, it says that in order to have a roll call vote on any issue, you have to demonstrate the majority support of no less than 7 states. That means, and there are petitions on the floor to allow them to do this, that you have to have a majority of the delegates from 7 states sign petitions calling for that roll call vote. Now, the rules also provide that if a delegate feels like they either didn't understand what they were signing or they just no longer feel that they want to support that, they can sign an affidavit requesting that their name be removed. But they have to sign an affidavit. So at one point, before the roll vote was taken, 9 different states had submitted petitions with a majority. And I'll tell you the states. And I say that because there's lots of talk back and forth on who did it and who didn't do it.
Right.
It was Washington, the District of Columbia, Maine, Minnesota, Colorado, Iowa, Virginia, Wyoming, and Utah.
Okay.
But before the vote was taken, 3 different states had enough delegates sign affidavits asking to withdraw their signature that they no longer had a majority of their delegation. That was District of Columbia, Maine, and Minnesota. So now you had to have 7 states. Now you've got only 6 states. And the state of Iowa was actually trying to submit affidavits, but they didn't get them in before the rules count, and so we don't count them if they aren't physically in our hands. So Iowa was prepared, they just hadn't gotten their affidavits in yet. So at the time the roll call vote was called for, they did not have the number of states under the rules they needed for a roll call vote. So when they were calling for a roll call, it was out of order because they had not met the threshold rule requirement. And people kept trying to tell them, no, there have been signatures withdrawn, and they simply wouldn't believe it. and so they kept shouting and carrying on, and finally Congressman Womack came back out and said, look, here's why, because he ruled them out of order and they just kept shouting.
Right.
He couldn't hear what was going on from the floor, and so I don't know why he left the gavel. That's not something I would have chosen to do, but I think he stepped back trying to give them some time to settle people down and so that he could hear what was going on, and they just kept protesting even though they hadn't met the rules.
Yeah. Do you suspect that this fervor is the wind out of the sails now, or will we get more rumblings?
Oh no, there will be more rumblings. We had it in the Rules Committee. When we went into the Rules Committee, these people had insisted they had 30 votes, which was more than they needed to bring out minority reports on multiple issues.
Yeah.
They didn't have it. The high water mark that they had for votes, they needed 28. They got 23 on one issue, and on the unbinding issue, they got 12.
Wow.
So they never had the support they claimed they had. And it was the same thing on the floor last night. They didn't have the support they claimed they had, and yet for some reason these folks, and I know they're well-meaning and well-intended, but I don't know if no one's ever told them no before or if they've never lost a softball game. And I'm not trying to minimize this. I know this is important. This is for the presidency. But there comes a point where when you have to acknowledge, I'm in the minority, I lost, and act accordingly. But instead of saying, gee, I'm just not going to vote for this person, or I want more information before I'm going to support this person, they keep banging their head against the brick wall and insisting they have more support than they do.
Yeah. Enid, I really appreciate you dropping by and kind of explaining this to us.
Well,
because, you know, it's been an interesting process to watch, and I really look forward to watching the rest of the convention. For you, and we've got a break for our news here, but what do you anticipate? What do you think was going to be the highlight? Is it the Donald speech coming up on Thursday?
Yeah, you know, Donald Trump was not my first choice, or second, or third.
Or fourth.
I know we could, but
or fifth. Maybe sixth.
But he's the nominee now.
Yeah.
And I want him to make the case to people. I want to hear from him why he should be our president. I'm going to vote for him. I've already crossed that bridge, because while he wasn't my first choice, Hillary Clinton is my last choice for president. And people who vote for the other, you know, you've got the Green Party and you've got the Libertarian Party. Those are protest votes, but they don't count. Those people are not going to win the presidency. So if you really want to impact this race, you've only got two choices, and that's Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. So I want him to make the case for other people who still aren't there yet. And that's what he's got to do over the next 3 days.
You know, last night, and I know we've got to run for our news here, but when Melania spoke, and it was honestly one of the highlights for me last night.
Yeah.
Now, there are some controversies over a couple of words that are very, very, very similar to Michelle Obama. I don't even want to go there, but she was really working on that, making him into kind of a kinder, gentler, more relatable Donald Trump, and I think now the burden's on him.
Well, and if anybody believes that Melania Trump herself cribbed that off of Michelle Obama's speech, you're crazy. I mean, I know she worked on it herself. Somebody may have provided her with some good text. I don't think she intended to do anything wrong last night. I think you heard from her heart how she'd like to see the country move in a different direction.
Well, plus, in this kind of arena, who in their right mind, I don't know if it was an overzealous speechwriter or somebody who contributed an idea, but holy cow.
Wrong thing to do, but
thing.
I don't think her fault.
Yeah. Enid, what a pleasure. Thank you
pleasure.
for all your, first of all, your friendship. And you've been a great friend to this radio program, and I appreciate all the work you've done for our state and for the Republican Party. You've worked your tail end off back here.
Thanks, Doug.
And we can compare hate mail someday, okay?
All right.
All right. We're coming up on 11 o'clock here on the Doug Wright Show at KSL.